Hey everybody! So, I wanted to do a chiropractic video because I am a strong believer in chiropractic, and I wanted everybody to hear from a professional as to why chiropractic is important. This is my chiropractor, Dr. Karen, and I will let Dr. Karen give you just a little bit of background on herself, and then I'm going to ask her some questions that everyone is pressing me for all the time. Dr. Karen?
Hi, I'm Dr. Karen Johnson. I've been with Atlas Total Health Chiropractic here in Chattanooga for the last 14 years. I've been a chiropractor for 18 years. I was originally born and raised in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, and now happily make the Chattanooga area my home.
Okay, well, I wanted to ask you the first question I wanted to ask you. As you can see, she's so awesome, and she always makes me feel right at home when I come here. Because I'll be honest with you, when I first started coming, my neck was so sore, and I'd been having this problem with my neck for so long that I was scared. I knew that she was going to touch those places that hurt and kept me from even looking this way to have a conversation with someone. So she has been absolutely amazing, but I know that there's a lot of people that are just flat scared of chiropractic, and then there are people that don't understand what the benefits are. They would rather just go to the doctor, get a pain pill, have that surgery, and all that stuff. So chiropractic is an alternative to the pain medicine and to surgery and all those things. At least that has been my thoughts on it. So I'm going to ask Dr. Karen a few questions, and so the first thing I wanted to ask you is why chiropractic? What's the science behind chiropractic?
So, the science behind chiropractic is pretty simple to understand. We help the nervous system function better. That's our primary function. We kind of get a rap for being bone doctors because we obviously put our hands on people's bones. And sometimes the result of that is a popping or cracking sound, which is just gas coming out of the joint space, which people go, ooh, they kind of hear that or they sense it moving. But the science behind it is really quite simple. It's a little too rudimentary to say a garden hose theory was what we talked about many years ago, which is if you park your car at home and you're parked on a garden hose and you go to water your flowers, you're probably not going to be very effective at watering your garden because something's interfering with the water getting from the spigot to the nozzle. So that's kind of a simple way to look at it, but that's one of a compression theory is certainly accurate for us. But our nervous system is like the master system of our body. It's like the mainframe of your computer. It's your hard drive. It's going to drive your cardiovascular system so that your heart works well. It's going to drive everything that happens inside of your body, including your immune system, so that we can be happier, healthier individuals. And we need no interference in that system to happen so that we can be as efficient, as effective as possible. So that's our primary goal. We happen to be kind of good at things like headaches, neck pain, back pain, sciatica. So we kind of get a little niche sometimes with people who think that that's the only type of thing that we can help. But in the 14 years I've been here in Chattanooga, I've had a lot of people. We have some pretty bad allergy problems in Chattanooga with ragweed and all the others.
You don't say.
um, it's all year round here. I don't know what seasons we have other than allergy season, January through December.
That's right.
But a lot of our patients who get adjusted on a regular basis, that doesn't mean they're seeing us 3 times a week for their whole life, but maybe they come and see us just once a month. Mm-hmm. But they do that for over a period of 2 or 3 years, and their immune system starts to work a little bit better, or their body's a little more efficient at handling those allergens that attack them. It doesn't mean that they never take a medicine or that they never need some kind of additional support.
Sure.
And then of course we can always take a nutritional approach in the office as well, because most chiropractors have a lot of training in nutritional supplements as well as the manual therapies that we do. We're well known for putting our hands on people. We're one of the few doctors that still actually touch our patients. So it's kind of intimate when you come see us. I'm going to get up in your personal space just a little bit, but it's typical visits here really fast. As you know, we kind of work people in and out as we can throughout the day, about 15-20 minutes for the average person. Some people need a little bit more time, some people don't need as much. So we try to make it as convenient as possible so that health is not a chore. It's easy as part of your self-care.
Okay. So there was just a little bit there that I didn't even know. All I know is my back hurt, my neck hurt, and she made it feel better. So I didn't know it was like the whole nerve thing. So I am learning today just like you guys are. So you kind of already covered how chiropractic supports a healthy lifestyle. Now, most of you know, some of you are doing a challenge with me right now. Some of you are a part of our Live Out Loud movement. And some of you are just followers to my Written in Stone page. But regardless, all of that, everything that I do, it supports a healthy lifestyle. So, is there anything else that you want to share with us about chiropractic being supportive of a healthy lifestyle?
I think the biggest take home that I try to teach patients over the years is that you're in control of your health.
Yes.
You get to choose. This is your body. This is your vessel that you're having this experience in, and you're the driver. So the things that feel good and do good for you, you should do more of. We always talk about pillars of health. That's one of the things chiropractic's known for. So we're one of the support systems for people. So I'm going to help your nervous system function better so that if you're doing exercise and you're eating right and you're staying hydrated and you're getting good rest and you're working on good interpersonal relationships and your finances are in good, like that all contributes to health. I read a meme this morning. I was flipping through some of my old saved Instagram posts because, what's the meme that says that like every woman's got, 50 memes ready to go at the drop of a hat, depending on the topic.
Yes.
Mine are all health related. They're not so much relationship related.
Yeah.
But, where it's a case of, if you can have a healthy body,
Mm-hmm.
you can eat right and you can exercise, but if you don't take care of what's happening up here,
Yes.
you're still not well, right?
That's right.
So
Absolutely.
in chiropractic college, we talk about the definition of health, and health is more than the absence of disease. And I think sometimes in the advantaged world, we think we don't have disease, therefore we're healthy. And
Right.
we forget that health is a whole component of items. And so I just want to be part of that puzzle for everybody out there.
Sure.
And if you're not in Chattanooga, obviously it's not convenient for you to come see me.
Right.
If you need a referral to a chiropractor in your area, you're more than welcome to contact me or my office. Our website is www.atlastotalhealth.com. And my email for my office is the Eastridge location with 400 South Moore Road. And you're welcome to email my office, and April's my assistant up front, and she'll, hey doc, somebody needs a chiropractor in such and such an area, and I'll reach out to my network of practitioners that I have association with. I might not have met them personally, but we've interacted through private Facebook groups, or we have mutual friends. Some of my classmates, I went to school in Dallas, Texas. Some of my classmates practice in Australia.
Sure.
I have some back in Canada. And of course my chiropractor that I saw when I was younger, he still practices up in Canada, and he's got his whole network. So I can tap into people who have networks of connections. So if you're looking for a referral, we can get you somewhere. Some of the questions that I get asked a lot of times are like, will insurance cover? So if you're in the excited states of America, typically insurance will cover chiropractic care. Same thing in Canada. And most of the countries that have insurance, there's some type of coverage. It varies. Sometimes there's a deductible, sometimes there's a copay. My office in particular, we bill all that for the patients. We make it convenient for them. Sure. A lot of practices just do strictly cash. We have that option here as well. Mm-hmm. I'm fortunate, if you go to our website, you'll see I have 9 offices that I'm affiliated with. And I'm kind of an umbrella, of like a franchise type thing. I'm the only doctor in my location, but we have this network that we get to work with very intimately. And so it allows us to do different things with our patients.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So my next question is, what's the biggest cause of misalignment of the bones? Because, I'm back to just thinking this is a bone thing. So I'm sure she's going to shed some light on my thoughts about like what causes this in the first flipping place.
Mm-hmm. Stress.
Stop. Surely not.
And nobody has that, so we can just skip right over to the next question.
I know. Like, I'm totally the most unstressed person on the planet.
So when I say stress, I'm sure most of you out there are thinking bad things. Like bills, physical issues, like those major life events that happen. There's a death in the family or something like that. But stress can be both good and bad. So good stress is called eustress, EUSTRESS. I don't know if you've talked about that with your viewers, but so there's good stress and bad stress. The unfortunate thing is our body only has 2 primary running systems: rest and digest, and fight and flight. Mm-hmm. So anything that sounds like, looks like, smells like, or has the inclination of stress, we drive into fight and flight instead of downshifting into rest and digest. Mm-hmm. So most people who come to me are stuck in fight and flight because of things happening in their life. And part of it is technology. It's great that we get to reach out to all these people, but we're a little too instant and a little too accessible, and we don't have that downshift defrag time. Everything's instant.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I
Yes.
have 5 email addresses, 6. I think it's up to 7. I have 7 emails that come to my smartphone. Now,
Yes.
the reason I have 7 is it's like drawers of a filing cabinet,
Yeah.
right? Because I know if there's an email in my work email, I probably should look at it because it's my work email and it might be my boss. Get an email to answer, right?
Sure.
But if it's my one other particular address, that's one I use for like if a store says, hey, can we have your email to send you coupons? So that's like the coupon email. So I don't have to read those emails. Like their priority is a little bit lower, and it helps me manage that incoming information.
Sure.
So how do we get bones out of place? So there's three kinds of stress that tend to overwhelm us. It's physical stress, chemical stress, and emotional stress.
Okay.
So physical stress, most people can understand that. I'm minding my own business, I'm driving my car, and out of nowhere somebody runs a red light or a stop sign and we crash, and all of a sudden my car stops, my body doesn't quite right away, we have the seatbelt engages, we have some whiplash activity. I know everyone's heard that buzz term, which whiplash is just sprain strain of the muscles and tissues around the spine, which then causes pressure on the nerves. And yeah, if you've been in a car accident and you haven't seen a chiropractor, you probably need to be checked for misalignments.
Sure.
That's probably the biggest cause, and people can understand that. That makes sense. Like everything's supposed to be in a certain spot, we have an accident, it's knocked out of spot. Good.
Sure.
Understood. Chemical stress is a little bit different. If I were to eat Hershey bars, because that's one of my favorites, yay. So if I were to only eat Hershey bars for breakfast, lunch, and dinner
Mm-hmm.
for about 3 days, I don't even know I could make it 3 days, right? Because after about a day and a half, my body's going to be like,
Yeah.
and it's going to be reacting to the lack of things like nutrients.
Sure.
I mean, yeah, there's some magnesium and good stuff in chocolate, but to that be my only source. So that's an extreme example of a chemical stress. But where we're overloading our system with foreign chemicals, the body has to respond to that, and that becomes a chemical stress, which acts very similar to physical stress. So if you've ever been on a road trip and you've had a little kid in the back seat, probably been on the road about an hour, and it's going to be, when are we going to be there?
Yes.
And you might be able to, like, you know, give them a tablet now. Back in the day, we didn't have tablets to entertain ourselves. We had to play the license plate game. But, you know, it kind of gets, like, the longer you're in the car, the more annoying that question gets. And, you know, and parents all across have, like, tried to come up with different ways to distract their children. Like, you know, here's a little paper clip on or the clothespin on top of the sun visor, and you've got 3 things. And if I tell you the 3rd time, then you don't get the lollipop when we stop, or whatever their trick is. So that annoying, constant, repetitive, when are we going to be there? When are we going to be there? When are we going to be there? When you chemically stress your body, that's your nervous system. So nerves kind of like, they come down and branch out like roots of a tree.
Yeah.
Right? So you have your main line, and then it kind of branches out. So this one particular line is the grumpy kid always asking, when are we going to be there? When are we going to be there? So what the body will do is kind of shift the bone slightly out of position to kind of rest on the nerve, basically to, like, imagine you had a limo window in your car and your kid's going, when are we going to be there? When are we going to be there? And you're like, bzzz, and now you don't hear the kid anymore. So that's kind of what the body does. It's like, you're not a priority right now. You know, you telling me that you don't know when we're going to be there, or that I'm eating too many Hershey bars, you don't understand. I'm too busy making the heart beat, making sure we're standing up straight. And oh goodness, here comes the tiger running at us. We need to address that before we figure out whether Hershey bars for breakfast, lunch, and dinner is a good idea or not. So on the hierarchy, it's just lower down. So it just kind of takes a temporary push off to the side. So chemicals a little different. How we get exposed to those chemicals, of course, is a whole other discussion. And, you know, depending where you are in the natural spectrum, you're going to have a different opinion about that. Environmental toxins, yes, would fall under the chemical umbrella. So I'll put that there so that depending where all of you viewers are on that, you can act accordingly. And then the last one, of course, is emotional stress. And that's where I try to make the delineation between both good and bad.
Sure.
You know, if I'm having a baby, that's a physical stress too. But if somebody I know is having a baby, that's an exciting time. Or my friend's getting married, or we're buying a house, or I got a new car. These are all exciting things, but they're still stressful.
Sure.
So all of that still overloads the system. And emotional stress, the best way to visualize how that affects your body is the 24 bones in our spine protect our spinal cord, and then the nerves that exit. And there's pairs of nerves that come out. So we have those pairs of nerves coming out. It's kind of like the breaker box in your house, right? So as long as you don't turn on too many appliances in the kitchen, you're not going to flip the breaker.
Sure.
But every now and then, when an electrical storm comes through, one of those breakers flips. And you're like, I was just using everything in the kitchen and everything was fine, but how come the breaker flipped? Well, it's the weakest breaker in the box, right? There was a little extra electrical surge through the panel, and the weakest breaker flips. So in our human spine, when we have an emotional stress, the weakest breaker is the one that tends to flip. And that tends to be like the thing people always complain about. So like whenever I'm stressed, I get a headache. Or if too much is going on in my world, I get a headache. For other people, it's like, oh, my belly doesn't feel right. And it's not just because they ate something weird. It's they're worried about their kids, or they overdid it out doing yard work. Oh, I get this belly thing.
Sure.
The best example I have for that is my mom was one of 10 children, and their dad passed away when they were all fairly young. My mom's in the middle of the pack. She was 7 when she lost her dad. And then shortly thereafter, within a year, she lost one of her older siblings, one of the boys. 3 boys, 7 girls. So they were down to 2 boys and 7 girls. And my grandmother raised them, never got her driver's license. They grew up on the farm. Amazing family. So when my grandmother passed away, my aunts and uncles were processing kind of the loss of both parents. Sure. Because even the ones that were in their early 20s, you don't process grief the same way as you do when you're older. So, and then of course the younger ones didn't even realize, when their dad had passed away. Sure. So here my grandmother passes away, unfortunately, and like my uncle's ulcers act up, this aunt gets headaches, this one's got digestive issues, and I'm like, at the time I was like 20, and I'm going, what's going on with everybody? So I go sit in chiropractic college, and like, so when you get emotional stress and it overwhelms your system, it's like the breaker's slipping, and I'm like, oh, that's what happened to my mom and her siblings. Like they all had the same stress. They lost their mom, but they all processed it differently. Sure. And depending which breaker was weak in them, it tripped a different symptom. Sure. So we do a lot of, I talk a lot about structural care in the office, is, because we've talked about that. So the structure is how your bones are lining up. So I'm a structural chiropractor. I'm going to take an x-ray. I'm going to look at your spine. I'm going to say, this is what we need to correct to give you a better vessel to go live life.
Okay. So we have learned a ton of, I definitely have learned a ton. Some of you may have knew this stuff, but I'm going to bet that you did not know. So I can definitely relate to the emotional stress, because I know when anything's going on in my life, whether it be good or bad, my low back just starts screaming at me. So now I kind of understand a little bit better about that. So my next question is, and I know there's a lot of people curious about this. The reason I'm going to ask this question is because I started bringing Cannon to her. And as you know, Cannon is 5 years old. Anybody that knows me, has followed me at all, I've got this little one, and then I've got those older ones. Well, the little one now goes to the chiropractor, and everybody's like, what does a 5-year-old need with a chiropractor? So my question is this: at what age can you start your children on chiropractic, and why would a child need chiropractic?
Well, we'll answer the second question first.
Okay.
A child is no different than an adult, other than maybe how far along the growth chart that they are, right?
Sure.
Babies are just tiny senior citizens. But, we're all the same. We all have the same parts. And so if I'm a structural part person, it's like a car, right? Mini cars versus monster trucks. They all have 4 tires for the most part. They got a steering wheel. Hopefully they've got some doors and some seat belts so you stay safe. And, we've all got kind of the same parts that are working.
Sure.
So I think what happens is why do children need to be adjusted is people see chiropractic's link on the physical stress side.
Sure.
Right? So like a child hasn't lived long enough to accumulate those physical stresses to need us. And that's usually the truth for the most part. I did have a new patient in this last week who's a teenage boy, and was apparently, unbeknownst to me until we were looking at x-rays, had been in a car accident as a very young child, and apparently in the car accident was stopped by the windshield because he was not restrained properly. Wow. And so when you look at an x-ray of a 15, 16, 17-year-old, you're not expecting to see alignment that you might see in a 25, 26, 27-year-old. So when you put up this x-ray, you see something like a pelvis that's uneven, or a rotation of a spine, or a tilt, or you kind of look at it and go, something happened. And it's probably not just emotional and chemical stress at that point. We kind of surmise, because they are so young, it might be physical. So, and that's kind of an exceptional case. Most children that come to see me don't have that physical stress.
Sure.
But we all come into this world with one big physical stress, and that's birth.
Sure.
You know, ever watch a birthing video? Mm-hmm. The two options that you have for coming out, neither one's really exciting. I mean, we were built to come out one way, but sometimes there's an emergency. We need to come out the emergency escape. But either way you come out, it's very stressful to the spine. You know, when they pull a baby out during a C-section, they pull them out by their head
It's awful.
and their neck. When I adjust a baby, I may be using my pinky fingers.
Sure.
So, yeah, not as much force, I promise. but there's a lot of force applied to a spine during birth, and it's supposed to be all the right way. But you know, sometimes people have probably heard of friends or family members who maybe the baby has a little torticollis after birth, or you know, they have a little bit of extra misshapenness to their head because they spent so long pushing down in the pelvis before they were able to come out. Sure. So actually, I have OB docs here in Chattanooga that refer me their pregnant moms.
Oh wow!
While they're pregnant.
Sure.
Because they're having issues, and then often those moms then start bringing their kids in right away because we want them to grow up healthy and strong.
Sure.
So example I talked about with the mom and son that came to see me in the last week was, you know, if we can correct a twig before that hard outer bark starts to form, sure, we can do some pretty cool things like bonsai trees, right? You can get them to do some pretty wicked things. In our case, we're trying to nice and straight, right? Sure. That's what we're looking for. We're looking for, when we're looking at each other, your spine should be nice and straight. When you turn sideways, there are curves that are supposed to be in your spine to act as shock absorbers. And we need those there for the longevity of our biomechanics, or how we move in the world.
Sure.
And so why parents choose to get their children adjusted when there's not pain is typically to make sure the twig isn't bent so that we get a straight tree when we're supposed to have a straight tree. You know, I'm a mom. I have 2 kids. My kids didn't have much choice when it came to their chiropractic care because it's what I do.
Sure.
So mine both got adjusted very, very young. A lot of my classmates adjust their children as soon as they're born. You know, mine both happened to be emergency C-sections, so there was a little delay before I could get my hands on them. But as soon as it was okay for them to be adjusted, I went ahead and adjusted them because sure, I know that's their best chance to have a healthy functioning nervous system.
Sure. Because
if their nervous system's working well, then all the other systems are working well. Yep. You know, and they're in this high growth rate, right? Like newborn babies in the first 6 months, how many times do they double their weight? You know,
yes.
They grow at this expansive rate. And so, yeah, they're not walking yet, but we want to make sure that all of their systems are running well. We also have a really good track record for people who aren't familiar with pediatric chiropractic care. We have a really good track record with things like ear infections and colic, constipation, sleep issues. Yeah, and all those things. I was talking to another patient this morning, and I said, you know, when new people come to see me, they don't tell me they're constipated or you know, it's not one of the check boxes necessarily on the form, right? So
right.
Why would you tell your chiropractor you're constipated? But that's not common knowledge. I'm here because I've got headaches. So we start working on people, we start adjusting them, and then they come in a few weeks later and they're like, I didn't tell you I was constipated, so how did you fix it? I'm like, well, obviously, if you didn't tell me, I didn't know. And so it's your body functioning better. Sure. And there may have been some contribution from that. I've helped children who have bedwetting issues, right? Up until 12, 13, 14 years of age, where they're not getting the right signals to wake up or whatever the issue is. I don't even always know what the issue is. Sometimes we don't know why things happen in people's bodies, but when they get adjusted, they go away.
Sure. Yeah, and that was one of the biggest things that I have noticed recently with Cannon, since he's been seeing Dr. Karen, is the child has been constipated. Now, when he grows up and he refers back to this video, I hope he never does. He'll be so mad at me. But it's been an issue with him literally since he was born. And a couple days ago, I noticed we're not really having that issue now. And it hit me. I was like, it's because he is seeing his chiropractor. That's the only thing that I have done drastically different in his life recently.
That's awesome.
So the last thing I want to ask you is, can you describe a couple of patients where chiropractic made a profound difference and why? I mean, what was their issue? Of course, you can't tell us who they are or whatever, but just a couple of things that, those are your tell stories because it made such a huge difference in their life.
The first one that comes to mind, because we're talking about kids, is a pediatric patient who arrived in the world one morning, and to a younger mother, and the baby's grandmother was part of my chiropractic family. That's the way to describe it.
Sure.
And the baby wasn't keeping any breast milk down.
Okay.
So refluxing everything,
Sure.
just not keeping fluid down. So the call came into me and said, "Hey, can you come check the baby?" So I went and I checked the baby and held the baby, loved the baby, and did a little adjustment on the baby and handed this little itty bitty Cabbage Patch Kid. This was before I was a mom, so you know it'd been a long time since I held a little one, because you know my niece and nephew were born when I was younger, so like I hadn't been around babies in a long time, and it was a little thing. I'm like, I don't want to even hold it. I don't want to drop it. You know?
Yeah.
So you know, I'm like trying to be all cool, calm doctor, but I'm like, oh, don't drop the baby. So you know, as gentle as we can, make a couple adjustments. I maybe adjusted 3 segments, maybe. Tailbone was probably one of them, sacrum. And headed back towards my house, and the commute time from where the baby was located to where I lived was a good 35 minutes. But you know, you call in favors for friends when they need them. So I was headed back home. Before I could get back to my house, the phone call came and the baby had kept down 2 ounces.
Aww.
So what stood out to me wasn't so much that, hey, I did something. It was what would have happened in that child's life had they not been able to keep 2 ounces down in that time frame.
Sure.
What medical interventions would have had to happen, and rightfully so. We need to thrive. So that course for that child, it was a fork in the road, because they were going to go down this. That doesn't mean they were going to come back, but that beginning was just going to look so different.
Sure.
And this child was able to skip over that.
Sure.
You know, by something pretty non-invasive. You know, I don't have poking things coming out of my hands. We don't do needles. You know, chiropractic is drug-free. You know, as I tell my patients, we don't have potions and lotions. You know, so you know, we keep it pretty straight up. And again, there was no supplementation or anything like that. It was just straight one adjustment. Obviously, no therapies. You know, we don't do a lot of therapy action on children for the most part. So that's probably one of the more profound ones. Because it was very early on in my career, and you know, you hear about stories, but you don't always like, yeah, that's what they're just saying. That wouldn't really happen. And I'm still in touch with the family to this day. I was practicing in another state before I moved to Tennessee, so that it was not even in Tennessee that story happened. Sure. A couple weeks ago, patient been hanging out for a few months, had missed a timeout. Look, I don't expect to be everybody's chiropractor every week for the rest of your life. But when you need a chiropractor, I want you to be happy with what we've done, and that you're going to call and come back to us.
Sure.
You know, that makes me happy. That means my staff is on point with our customer service. It means the product that we're delivering, the service we're delivering, meets expectations and hopefully exceeds those expectations, and that people feel like they're getting a good value for their investment of time and money when they come to see me.
Sure.
And there's no better compliment that we can receive than a referral, right? If somebody cares about what I've done for them enough to tell their friends, and then their friends come in, like that's the best compliment ever.
Absolutely.
So that's how we strive to do customer service in our business. And so it's okay if somebody doesn't come in for a while. If they're doing well, that's fine. I get it. You know, just because I get adjusted once a week to keep myself healthy because of how I live my life doesn't mean everybody else is going to choose that.
Sure.
So this patient comes back, and literally like the hips were here and the upper body was here. It was like
oh my god,
a total like, and I was like, well, what did we do? And this person works in construction, so does heavy lifting, lots of manual labor hours.
Sure. And
like 2 adjustments totally straight again.
Oh wow.
And comes in giggling. Okay, and we'll say it's a boy, right? I can say it's a boy. There's you know, that doesn't define which patient, so we're protecting them that way. And he comes in and he's like giggling, and I'm like, what? And he's like, it's better. But now has not missed a visit.
Right. Because
he's fearful if he's not getting his regular corrections that it's going to go back that way. And I take a lot of x-rays in my office to rule out bad things. And I like showing people their own bodies, you know, like we've done. And it's exciting to see, like, I can talk about theory all day long, but if I go, this is normal and this is you, and everybody goes, then it makes explaining things a little bit easier.
Sure.
Pictures are always better than words.
Mm-hmm.
And so just because we feel better doesn't mean we look better on x-ray, or that misalignment that we noticed is corrected. And so in this particular patient's case, he felt that difference, and now he's like, oh, still need to come in because I'm working on. I said, that's right. Once the discomfort goes away, now we can start working more on the structural side and making those corrections so it doesn't come back.
Sure.
You know,
absolutely.
Like, I don't mind if somebody comes to see me every few weeks because they're hurting, but that gets old.
Sure.
You know, I want you to hurt.
Yeah.
Like, all my patients come in smiling like you do. Like, this is how we spend our day, you know?
Yes.
It's fun. It's a good place to hang out and have a good time and get people better. So we had a 12-year-old boy. His mom's been getting adjusted routinely for a long time. I think he had been to another chiropractor previously in the past. I was not his first.
Sure.
Sometimes when kids come to me, they haven't been to a chiropractor. Sometimes they have. He had previously been adjusted very manually by somebody, which is hands-on, you know, we're pushing down on the spine. And he wasn't a big fan. And I use a lot of drop table in my office, which is a special table that has pieces that kind of move and they kind of make a big clanking noise, which sometimes unnerves the children a little bit. So knowing he was a little skittish, and his complaint via his mom, because she didn't tell me in front of him because he was embarrassed, was he would occasionally wet the bed. But it got to the point where it was interfering with his social life because he wouldn't go spend the night at a friend's house.
Sure.
Because he didn't know when it might happen and he didn't want to be embarrassed.
Sure.
And so here's this kid, and this is pre-COVID. So here's this kid missing out on hanging out with his buds because he can't tell them why, because he's embarrassed. And so I think we adjusted him 2 weeks in a row. He was coming in once a week. I think it was after the second week. His mom told me he went a whole 7 days without a problem. And it was within 2 months, he felt confident enough to go spend the night at a friend's house for the first time.
I love that. So you have me crying.
So
have me crying in here.
You know, that one kind of gives me the feels, because it's not a typical, you know, yes, have I had people come through the door that have a headache and we work on them that day and then the headache is lessened or gone? Absolutely. I see a lot of that.
Sure. Absolutely.
And, you know, for some of my people with migraines, some of them are food triggers, but there's also a structural component that we might see. And if we can take that out, then if we can help reduce that, then the body functions better. And then they don't have as many, you know, I have people who come in like 4 migraines a month. I'm like, how do you function?
Oh,
you know, so for them,
man.
1 migraine a month still is terrible.
Yeah.
But when you've gone from 4 to 1, you feel like you have your life back.
Sure.
And so it's
Absolutely.
For everybody. We try to figure out what are you missing out on in your life, and how can we help you achieve that again?
Sure.
You know, do you want to be able to play with your grandkids, but you can't bend down and get on the floor with them because once you're on the floor, you're not getting back up. You know, so then we have to work on giving you the mobility in your spine, but then maybe helping you strengthen some of those muscles so that you have a little more oomph to get back up. Or is it, I'm not sleeping well at night, so then I'm grouchy throughout the day, and it's my quality of life isn't as good. So,
Sure.
you know, we can talk about, how are you sleeping? You know, back is best. Okay, if it's back is best for babies, when do we unlearn that? Experiment I did with my daughter, who doesn't know she's part of this unofficial clinical trial of momness. I realized very early on that when my daughter, as a little kiddo, would go to pick something up, she'd squat all the way down and pick it up and stand all the way up. She was 18 months, 2 years, and I'm like watching this, and I'm like, so at what point do we unlearn the proper way to lift? Because I never told her how to pick up a toy. She figured that all out on her own because she wanted the toy or the dog dish or, you know, dad's dinner plate, whatever she wanted, she'd go and get it. So I've silently been watching her, and I won't let her watch the video when it's posted, so she doesn't know she's being watched. But she just turned 11. And still, if she has to pick up something, lifts properly. Because what I was hoping to do was find the age at which she unlearns it,
Sure.
and then watch that in my 8-year-old to see if it's about the same age that he unlearns it.
Sure.
Because then I can say to parents, hey, when your kids are X years old, let's talk to them about how to lift things properly. Because then how many issues are we going to save down the road?
Sure. Absolutely.
You know, or we could talk to teachers, say we know it happens in 3rd grade. Not that it, according to my daughter, it was in third grade. So to figure out at what age maybe we could just call up our teacher friends and say, hey, do you mind if I pop in one day in your health class and have a discussion about, good spine hygiene and talk about lifting and not overloading our backpacks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that kind of stuff.
Well, that was all of the questions that I had for Dr. Karen. I hope that everyone gets value from this video. I do want her to share her phone number here at her office, just because if you guys are local here and you're considering a chiropractor, I will tell you that I won't see another chiropractor. I've seen another chiropractor before, a long time ago. I was pregnant, and he was okay, but coming here is not just going in and getting adjusted. It's an experience. We talk about family, we talk about friends, we know what's going on. It smells amazing here always. She's always got these essential oils going, and it's just really nice. And April at the front is just, she puts up with a lot of crap for me. Just gonna put that out there. I'm late, sometimes I miss my appointments, and she's just so nice about it. Anyway, I want Dr. Karen to share her phone number here at her office. And then, so what's the phone number here?
So the phone number here is area code 423-894-4771. And it's Atlas Total Health Chiropractic. We're at 400 Southmore Road, Suite B, which is the middle. We're across the street from Our Lady of Perpetual Helps Church and School. And next door to the funeral home. And I keep saying I need to come up with some funny tagline, like, if you don't come see me, you're going to end up seeing my neighbor, So something like that. But that's where we are. Our website, again, is atlastotalhealth.com. You'll see our lovely new logo that we have on display everywhere. Yeah, we have the heart because we care. Yeah. And I do have other locations that I'm affiliated with here in Chattanooga, as well as North Georgia, and we even have an office down in Morrow, Georgia.
Okay.
So that's south of Atlanta. So if I'm not the most convenient location, I can at least get you to one of my family members. And then, again, if you need somebody outside the area, by all means, contact us. My personal email is drjohnson@nugachiro.info. And you're more than welcome to email me there. It's work email, so I'll answer it usually during business hours, sometimes a little bit later if we're busy seeing patients. But you're more than welcome to email me or call the office if you need anything. April will gladly assist you. Just let her know that you saw Camille's video, and then that way she can kind of put the pieces together, and it's not like, I've got somebody on the phone with a strange question. So that she'll be a little bit more prepared for the requests that your viewers have.
Absolutely. And as always, guys, you know how to find me. You can reach me at Camille Stone on Facebook, and you can always email me at empower@camillestone.org. Thank you so much for watching. I love you guys. Bye.